At Bellator 272, we have Sergio Pettis versus Kyoji Horiguchi for the strap, and this is an awesome fight. And you kind of don't expect it to be Horiguchi in these circumstances because of who Bellator normally bring in, but I'm so happy they brought him back because he's only had the one fight, and obviously he won it, had to vacate due to injury, went back to Rizin, and the story unfolds. But before we get into it, guys, remember, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, loads of you haven't, like the video if you do enjoy it, guys. Let's get into it. So let's start with Sergio Pettis. Obviously ex-UFC fighter, fought people like Formiga, you got a win over Benavidez, lost to Cejudo. He's fought the best of the best in the UFC. Obviously younger brother of Anthony Pettis, for people that may not be aware of him. Very, very good flyweight. He was at the top of his game. He needed a couple tweaks, I reckon, in the UFC, and he would have been challenging for the belt. You know, he had potential to be it, but I don't know what happened with the UFC, whether his contract just ended and he decided I'm going to take another route, whether he got bought out, whether he got cut. I'm not actually entirely sure. But he's made the step over to Bellator and it's worked out well for him, which is great. That's what we want to see. We want to see individual fighters getting the best for themselves. So he fought Kashakian on his debut and looked tremendous and dropped him with that right hand, got the guillotine off. Showed diversity, showed how good his striking was. He struggles with the range a little bit. All of these guys, I know it's flyweight, but a lot of these guys he's fighting seem to be a lot longer than he is. He's a very small flyweight. He packs a punch though for this division. You know, the way he sat him down with that right hand was just, the speed as well of Sergio is a lot to get your head over, because his movement's great, lateral movement's really good, he cuts angles really well, he manages to find you into the corner of the octagon. And obviously in Bellator it's a round cage, so it's a lot harder, but he still pins him against the fence. And he hit Kashakian with a right hand, but it was a counter right. Dropped him down, went to his submission. You know, I believe, if he's not a black belt, I believe he's a brown belt. I know his big bro's a black belt. You know, they both train under the Rufus banner, and they've got some great black belts down there, and obviously a great team down there as well. CM Punk mainly, he's the best I think down there for sure. Bandejas Archuleta after that, very good wins, good names to have on the record. Very good performances as well by Sergio, and you know, he got the belt, he's maintained the belt, he looks good with the belt, looks comfortable, but he's going to be fighting someone now who's, in my opinion, a dark horse in the MMA world. Not a lot of people are aware of him, even though he fought in the UFC. He's a real dark horse, Horiguchi. Now I've got the old list out now, and I just want to read some of the names Horiguchi has faced in the past. Now bear in mind it's been about 7 years. He was very early in his 20s when he was in the UFC, and I think he did fight Mighty Mouse at one point, but I just want to read off some of the names for people that aren't aware too much of Horiguchi and think, oh, Sergio Pettis versus another guy. You got to understand how good Horiguchi really is. So these are the names that he's fought, obviously after the UFC. A lot of them, obviously I'm not going for the UFC names because it's, again, 7 or 8 years ago. It's not really relevant to this kind of timeline. I'm going to go with the Rizin fights because he's had a lot of fights within a few years. I think he fights at least 4 times a year, minimum. So you've got Manuel Karp, who's now in the UFC, had his debut against Alexander Pantoja, looks the real deal, to be honest, for this division. You know, and he head and arm choked him in round 3 in Rizin. You've got Ian McCall on this list. He finished him within 10 seconds. Round number 1. He then had a kickboxing fight against Tenshin Nasukawa, who, if you remember that name, is because he had an exhibition fight with Floyd Mayweather. If you're not aware of the kickboxing world, he's a very, very good kickboxer, and even though Horiguchi lost, he went to the decision with a guy that is unbelievably good at kickboxing. You know, similar weight class as well. They're very small guys, 50 something, 55 kilos I want to say. It's very small. But after that, I fought Darian Caldwell, guillotine choke finish, Bendergoyan, right hand finish, Darian Caldwell again, and that was in Bellator, and got the unanimous decision, and that was to win the belt. Then he had to obviously get rid of it for his injury, and he went back to Rizin and lost in the first round to Kaya Sakara, rematched him, knocked him out in the first round. So he's got an unbelievable record. I think it's like 28-3, maybe 27-3. I've already closed the list, so I can't confirm it right now. But Horiguchi is the real deal. He comes into game with a game plan all the time. He's a great counter striker. He's an all-round mixed martial artist. He's Mr. Karate. He started with karate, as a lot of Japanese fighters do. So he's got really good distance management. which is what Pettis is going to have to look out for, because Pettis loves to land that 1-2, just the straight jab, sits on that jab as well, really puts his power behind it, much like Kamaru Usman does. Really tries to, as much as a flyweight can anyway, puts his power behind the jab and then closes with the right hand. Horiguchi's going to, I think, have that covered. He loves the teep, he loves the calf kick, he loves just scooting in and out, just subtle little movements just to bring him out of that distance. So you just miss every time you graze his nose, you just don't hit him. He's very hard to hit, he's super elusive, and he's an all-round mixed martial artist. If Pettis thinks he's going to beat him on the ground, this guy's a wizard on the ground as well. I think Pettis is in for a real hard night here, and I would be shocked if the betting line isn't even. Now, that's from an MMA point of view. From a betting point of view, I think a lot more people are going to obviously be aware of Sergio Pettis. So it's a real difficult one to call. Pettis obviously could beat him. It depends as well, because Bellator like to do 5-round main events, even championship ones, some at 3 rounds, some at 5 rounds. So God knows what this is. I'm assuming it's a 5-round fight, and for that I will back Horiguchi all the way. I'm a massive fan of his. I think Rizin doesn't get enough credit. There are some really good fighters over at Rizin. Horiguchi, for me, I think has the edge, he has the experience. He's arguably fought better guys recently. I think overall, looking at their careers, you can't say they've fought better guys, because Sergio Pettis has fought better Vitos. He fought Henry Cejudo. So he has fought the upper echelons of the MMA game for the flyweight division. But Horiguchi has done it for God knows how long. I think he's 30 years old now. He's still young. He's still young. And he was in the UFC, I think, like 22 years old. So, and even then, I think he only lost to Mighty Mouse. I think he just left through money. There was no other reason. I think he won 7 and lost 1, something like that in the UFC. He had an unbelievable record. He could have stayed there. But it's a really interesting fight. It's a good one Bellator have matched up. A good matchup for Bellator, because their main events recently have been like completely weird. With Cyborg and Kavanaugh, which was just a complete what are you doing? So I'm glad there is this one. When you got Tim Johnson and Fedor fighting, it's a cool fight, but it's not the highest level of competition. This is the highest level of competition for flyweights. These guys are, like, if you're only UFC based, these guys are worthy of the UFC for sure. They would be, floating around that top 5. So if not contenders. So for me, I'm going to go with Horiguchi for this one, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear why you think Horiguchi would win or Sergio would win. It's a wicked matchup, though. It's going to be a fast-paced, high-impact matchup with Horiguchi is a finish machine. Sergio has has the potential to finish. So it's a real close call. Horiguchi for me. What's your take, guys? Let me know in the comments below, guys, what your take is. Like the video if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, please. That'd be great. Helps a lot. Share the video around, guys. Follow us on Insta. Follow us on Twitter. Give us a message. Come on for an MMA show. Who cares? Let's get it done, guys. See you in the next one.